Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Math with Mr. W. And look what we've got here on the board today. We've got mean, median, mode, and range. Those four words are going to be used not only in fourth grade, where we start those words, but they're going to be used in fifth, sixth, seventh, and even if the students are in pre-algebra, and maybe even in algebra, you're going to be seeing a problem that uses those words. So, and what kind of mean are we talking about? We're talking about the arithmetic mean or the average. We're talking about the average of all the numbers that I have here on the board. And I've done some work already, and so you're going to see some work already down below. Now, there's really some important stuff to happen here. And you, as a teacher, I think, need to spend some time with this on a test that you've given, because not only do your students, they just get a test score, but they need to know more than that. They need to know what the scores mean. How are they tabulated? They want to know what the scores overall were. So let's say they get a piece of paper without getting their own score yet. You gave them a problem with the list of all the scores, and you're asking them to find these three things and the range: the mean, median, mode, and range. Now, you've done some problems, so they know that if they have an odd number of tests or numbers, then the guy right in the middle is going to be the one they're looking for. Or if they have an even number and they're looking for the median, then they have to divide into two parts. So you might have an upper 12 and a lower 12. And right there in the middle, you have to take the two middle numbers, add them together and divide by 2. And that becomes your median. Your median and your mean and your mode are really, really important. Now, if they're all close together, then you can probably bet that the scores were pretty accurate. That's pretty good. Your kids did a pretty good job, and you've done a good job at teaching, because these three scores are fairly accurate. They're all within the same range. Look at your median was 75. Your mode said the 75 happened on most scores. And mean was 73.36. The average was 73.36. Now, you can look and see that the one score of 41 probably pulled this down a little bit. So if you think about it, your test was probably pretty good. But now let's take a look at giving this set of numbers to the students and see that they come up with these numbers like you do. But then ask them, do they think the test was a fair test? Do they think that there could be some tweaks in the test? For instance, what if the mode was 75 and the median was 75, but the mean was not 73.5, but was 67? There's quite a gap between the median and the mean. Maybe there's some things happening on the test. The guy in the middle and the average are spread out. So I know that when I do a test, especially the first time I give a test, if I've written a test and I give the test, then I always want to look and see what the overall list of scores are. I want to take a look at what my mean, median, and mode is and what my range is. And if you have outliers, what's an outlier? I mean, this score of 41 might seem to be a bit of an outlier, even though you had a 48 as well here, because you only have just 2 scores of 58, but everybody else was 60 and above. So you have some scores that were kind of outside the basic amount of scores. They call them outliers. So have you talked about outliers to your students? That's a good thing to talk about. Sometimes you have a score that actually pulls the mean or the average down quite a bit, but it doesn't change the idea of the median. Okay, so, and it could go both ways. Maybe you have one person that has a 99 and the next highest score is 80. So he's an outlier and he can tweak the mean, pull it up and make it look kind of nice, but where's the median? And they don't look right because of the outliers that pull them in each direction. So that range is really important. So when the student says, oh, the range is from 41 to 99, that's a large gap. And it helps in this case for you to perhaps think about, what about that 41? What happened to that 48? Maybe they weren't in class often enough. So it's not saying anything wrong with your teaching. Your teaching is probably great. I'm sure it was. But it also helps you to understand whether or not the test was fair. And you need to know that the test is fair. So again, the mean, the average of all the scores. But have your students do that. They take a look at the scores and figure out what the average is. Have them figure out what the mode is, the thing that happens most often. In this case, it was 75 because there was 4 75s. Hopefully they all weren't sitting together. And the median was also 75. So the thing that happened most often was also the person in the middle, which also says something about the test. It says that there's something good about the test. That if we think about highs and lows, that there's a large group right there in the center at 75, and perhaps the test has some poor scores and some high scores, but your overall test was well written. So think hard about this mean, median, and mode, but make sure that you give your students the opportunity to figure out their own mean, median, and mode on the test that they took, not just problems from the book. I'll see you next time on Math with Mr. W.